All right, welcome back to the F3 Northeast Way Q Source podcast. With me today, I've got Sean Hanna, Oscar Meyer. Oscar Meyer, thanks for coming on the F3 Q Source podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, before we go any further, I wasn't there when you got your name. So how did you get your name?
So our other brother, Tube Top, he knew that I'd driven the Wienermobile 1 year out of college, and
Okay.
so that just kind of fell right in with it. I kind of stuck with that and just went with it.
Gotcha. I think I saw maybe you posted a picture on Facebook of you with that Wienermobile, and I was like, that has to have something to do with it, but I didn't hear the story. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I get pictures every time it rolls through town or somebody sees it on the road. So never, but yeah, it's part of who I am and kind of part of my legacy.
you were destined. Yes, your baloney has a first name. So this week,
Frankly, it
Pax,
does.
we're in quadrant three. We're in Q 3.6, and it's persuasion. And as you know, I try to be pretty intentional about the Pax that I asked to join me on the podcast. And I knew I wanted Oscar Meyer at the right time. And we were working out, I think, at quarantine. And I said, man, I need to get you on the podcast. I got these weeks coming. I think you'd be ideal for. And when I told him persuasion, he's like, that's it. I'm in the business of persuasion. That's exactly where the chapter I need to come on. And so that was a few weeks ago. And I'm glad that you put this on your calendar. So tell us, if you're in the business of persuasion, what does that mean for the PACs that don't know what you do for a living? And I love
Yeah.
to I know that you think about this on a daily basis. Lead us into the conversation about persuasion in our leadership.
Yeah. So persuasion has a lot of different pieces, but for me professionally, first of all, I'm a recovering sales rep. So that's always part of persuasion. But I work in marketing for over 20 years. I have 2 degrees in marketing, so we think a lot about persuasion. And there's a lot of things that we could go through, many different levels. But some of the most simplistic when we think about marketing, we always talk about the 4 Ps. Any marketing class you're going to take, you'll go through the 4 Ps. And you think about those things, you think about the product. So, like, what is it that people are being persuaded about?
Mm-hmm.
Then you think about the place, like where is it? Can they get to it? Is it within reach? And then you think about the price, like what is it going to cost them to get this thing? And then really at the end, that's when you think about the message, like how do you reach that person? And each message is going to be different for each audience and the different personality types or why it matters to them. And so based off of those things, we think a lot about those things in marketing of persuasion from that perspective. I don't know if you see that in your business as well,
Oh
but
yeah.
those are some of our core principles. Those are the 4 basic principles of marketing from our side.
So let me tie in what you just said to where we're at, and so the PACs understand how incredibly appropriate what you just said and why you're on here is. So we're talking about persuasion. So in the book, right, just to lay some groundwork, quadrant three, we are starting to go into the tactics of leadership. And in the first 3 chapters, we had about building teams, shared leadership, mutual competence, trust. Now we're in the skill set that a leader must have. And Dred says the skills are you have to be able to cast a vision. You've got to be able to articulate that vision. And then you've got to be able to persuade people to join you in that vision. And finally, you have to be able to exhort the people, encourage them alongside of that vision. And after that, we'll start to get into the virtues of the leadership. So we're right square in the middle of the leadership skills, with persuasion maybe being one of the most important, but it has to come after we know how to articulate, like create a vision and then articulate it. So here we are with persuasion. And so we think about these 4 Ps from I'm selling a product standpoint, but it's no different than when we're leading someone in a workout or we're leading a movement or a nonprofit or a company, right?
Right.
So I know there's a lot that you think about with nuance. And so assume that for the rest of this conversation that we're newbies in sales and marketing, that not everybody is in sales and marketing. And I'd love for you to bring this sales and marketing understanding to our leadership, because I believe, as I think you would probably agree, that, leadership is just sales, right? And if you can sell and if you can market, you're really performing leadership skills, and you are being a leader as you're leading someone to something that you have to offer.
Yeah. Well, I think that, yeah, absolutely. So I think of a couple things like in the book, you know, he talks a lot about like Stalin and Germany post World War II, like some of these very heavy-handed things. And I think it's easy to kind of distance yourself and kind of be like, well, I wouldn't be like a communist. But you kind of get into this a little bit with, a lot of these things transfer when you over into your personal life. Like I think about my family.
Okay.
So you have a lot of influence and persuasion within your family. So you think
Right.
about sometimes there is you're going to be somewhat Machiavellian with your kids of unloading the dishwasher, taking the trash down. Like
Right.
those things need to get done,
Right.
but it's really those starting to think about those people sort of like in the marketplace with my wife. How do I lead my wife? I don't lead her in that Machiavellian way. And
Right.
so as my kids get older, more to become teenagers, yeah, there's some of that, like you got to do this, but there's a lot of leadership of, where are they at? What are they going through? What do they need? And it's constantly thinking more on their level. And as a leader, we're always thinking about what is it that they need? Just like in marketing, we're always thinking about the market. How has it changed? How have consumers started to think about things differently and trying to respond to that with all of, our four Ps. Same thing with our families, our friends, talking to them. You're never just going to come in and win an argument. That's not how persuasion works. It's about, that. And I'm sure you see that, with your family and your wife as
Yeah,
well.
well, I want to chime in about that. That trash is such a perfect point, right? Because
Yep.
when I want a clean house, and they're the ones making all the messes, right? And so there's
Of
the
course.
Machiavellian me comes in that I just need my freaking house clean because these little
Yeah.
guys are making the mess of it. But the leader in me has a vision for my son's life when he's 30, when he's 40, and he's taking out the trash now, not because I can't do it. He's taking out the trash now because I'm trying to instill in him the principles and the character necessary to be successful long term. And so if I'm Machiavelli with getting to take the trash out, he may not buy into that character building, instead might resist it to the point where when he moves out on his own, he's like, I'm never taking the freaking trash out again.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Versus if I did my job, I've persuaded him, I've kind of invited him into this larger vision so that when he leaves, you realize, you know what? As much as I didn't like it when I lived at dad's house, he really taught me these skills I needed to be successful. And now I realize why the trash has to be taken out.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think parenting, it's a growth. I often think of it as like each stage you're kind of sort of like a softball pitch. You hold tightly at the
Yeah,
beginning,
right.
and as
Yeah.
you're releasing, you slowly start to release. And the older they get, the more you release, the more you don't push, but you gently kind of guide. And at some point, they're out there on their own, but you're hoping that direction, like you did everything you can, bringing them through. And that man, kids are that's it's tough,
Yeah.
because it's easy to persuade, if you will,
Yeah.
compulsively, but it's really hard to do from a um, leading them. I often think of the clip from The Office where Ryan he says, I want a leader, to lead me, but don't lead me the way, only lead me when I want to be led and in the way I want to
Yeah.
be
Right.
led. And
Yeah.
that is a lot of, figuring
Yeah.
out the leadership of how do you meet those, fickle people where they are, when they are,
But
and what.
as ridiculous as that sounds, isn't that what we all want though? It was
Yeah,
only articulating the things that we are too ashamed to say that we really feel like, because
yeah,
right, I
yeah,
want to think I'm mature and I'm a good team member, but really I just want you to lead me the way I want you to lead me when I want you to lead me, and otherwise I just want you to lead me alone, right? But
exactly.
and so we can't just because someone's immature in their thinking, we can't discount that as a leader.
Right, right.
Right. So let's put my finger really quick on that compulsion thing, because you brought up Stalin and Hitler, right?
Yeah,
And so we
right.
think about persuasion through compulsion, compulsory, involuntary, mandatory, but juxtapose that versus the leader who uses persuasion for the right reasons. What's possible when you take those paths two different ways?
Yeah. Well, I think that's all what really matters is it's a skill as a leader it's a skill as I'll even say a marketer, as a sales rep, to be able to read people. So, there's a couple things I think that go into being really good at, we'll just say sales, but also, leader, how use them interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it's really understanding and thinking about others. What is it that they need? What is it that they
Yeah.
want?
Right.
In the business world, we always say the with them, what's in it for me, and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about other people and saying,
Yeah.
what is it that they want? And so, like, if it's your wife, what is it that she needs today? That's servant leadership. That's what good
Yes.
good sales reps are.
Yes.
They're not pushy, but it's also understanding, different people need different things. So one of the things, have you heard of the Four Tendencies? It's a book by Gretchen Rubin. Have you heard of
I
that one?
haven't. I haven't. I love to introduce new books on the
Yeah.
podcast. We're building a leadership library. If you've listened to this podcast all year, so add another book to our library.
So this is the most underrated but most efficacious book that I don't think we have with, the disc profiles or Myers-Briggs. So it's a very simple concept. So there's four different personality types, and you can really start looking around and kind of going, oh, that's that person. Um,
Okay.
and so there's the first, I always like to think about it like people going to the gym. So there's what you call the questioners. They
Okay.
are internally motivated. They are not externally motivated. So you've met these folks that they say, I'm going to run a marathon. Nobody else is driving them to do it. It's all
Yeah.
internal. They're going to
Yep.
show up to the gym, whatever, do whatever they need to. And that is your focus person. But they are skeptical of anybody else who's pushing something from the outside because they're not influenced that way. There is the obliger. So you've met those folks that if you say, I'll meet you at the gym, they will
Mm-hmm.
be at,
Right. Yeah.
7,
Star
6:30,
hunger
whatever.
for accountability.
They're absolutely, because that's what drives them, and they're motivated by, obliging others. It's not a weakness. It's a just that's how they're wired. And so, if you're reaching those folks, that's,
Mm,
key piece.
right.
And then some of you might be thinking, well, I kind of do both. Well, there is another type, which is the upholder, which they are both internally motivated but externally motivated. So
Mm,
they might be, working out on their own, but if somebody says, hey, you want to, work out with me, they'll show up and do it as well. Um, and then the one that always makes me smile is the rebel, and they're going to
mm,
resist both expectations internally and externally, and
hmm.
they will sabotage themselves, but also if somebody tells them you should,
Yeah.
they'll go
Right.
absolutely not, and they'll
Right.
just go the other way. And it's really helpful to, there's so many different
Hmm.
personalities. I think the more, the Enneagram's really helpful, but this is one that I really like to, it helps me to understand, who
Yeah.
are people, what motivates them. The more you can be a student of people and personality types, the better you can
Well,
to like,
these personalities are
yeah,
going to respond completely differently.
completely different.
You're going to persuade the rebel almost completely opposite the way you persuade a questioner or obliger, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing with Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram 1, and the world is black and white, and this is how it should be. And
So, are you a questioner or a rebel? Which one are you of the four tendencies?
I'm probably more of a questioner, so
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna do what I set out to do. But I'm also maybe a little bit of an upholder, because if somebody says, "Hey,
Hmm.
let's meet up here," I'm like, "Cool, let's do that." So
With a
uh,
little bit of rebel tendency, maybe.
a little bit of rebel tendency, maybe just kind of throw up and go, "No, I'm not doing that."
But
So
that's the questioner in a you, right? Just like I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
ultimately I need to do this for me. I'll do this for you, but I gotta.
Yeah.
Mm, that's really good. Covey talks about in the 7 habits of highly effective people to think win-win. One of those habits is you think win-win, and that's really kind of what you've been kind of talking on. Like we can try to compel someone, get them to do something under compulsion, but the long-term larger win is when we're thinking win-win, when we both can find a way to win through something. And I'm inviting someone into something that they believe in, and it's something that I believe in, rather than just trying to get them to do what I want to do. I mean, you can get people to do what you want to do short term, but you're not going to get them to commit long term unless they see what's in it for them, right? Like you said, what's in it for me?
Yeah. And you'll generate resentment, right?
That's right.
So I often think about it. It's like in marketing, we have like funnels and we talk about, trying to get people into that funnel. You want to get to the right people. And so some of what we do initially is awareness. Like if
Yeah,
you're
right,
looking to buy a car, yeah, or if you're not looking to buy a car, you're going to see all these car ads, but you're going to be completely oblivious to them. The
right.
moment that your car starts breaking and you need to start thinking about it, suddenly, all of a sudden, car ads are everywhere.
There's pain,
So,
right? There's got to be a source of pain to create this awareness for something, right?
exactly, exactly. And so with persuasion, it's not about creating or forcing something to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
It's marketing is finding the right people that need your goods or services at the right
right.
time.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's a little bit of persuading of like you see an infomercial and you're kind of vulnerable at 2 a.m. Maybe you're gonna, order that scissor or, whatever. But what I often think about it is, that persuasion is, you know, people are in your sphere because they've chosen to be there and they generally buy in. So it
yeah,
might
that's
be
right.
somebody's walked into a car dealership. They're probably ready to buy a car. If they're kicking
Yeah,
the tires, they've
yeah,
already gotten there in their own mind. But it's also then it's like, why take those couple steps? And it's not about saying, I see two people, I'm going to sell you this car. It's what's your needs? Where are
yeah,
you at? What's going on with
yeah.
you? And I think it's the same with, leadership is, what does your wife need today? What does your coworker need today? What is it that, anyone around you, that's how you persuade is serving leadership.
Yeah, you're not trying to get a quick yes just to get a yes and
Yeah.
get a sale that, like if you've sold anything long enough, if you get a yes that someone's not ready for, they're just going to renegotiate. They're going to back out of the deal. They're not going to fully implement with confidence. You're going to get the yes today and you're going to get the no tomorrow, versus
Yeah.
finding the people that you're a right fit for and they're ready to say yes. But here's the thing, there's still some skill in the leadership of
Absolutely.
persuasion.
Yep.
It's not only just that you had the right thing at the right time in the right place. You still, as a leader, have to be able to articulate the vision and invite them in. They've got to see a path for them, because not everybody is going to just see the obvious open door for them. They're going to need a leader to say, hey, I want you to come with me. I think there's something in here for you.
Well, you know how you do that, right?
Tell us.
It's storytelling. And so as humans, most of us think in pictures. So if I'd say pink elephant, you're going to imagine a pink elephant, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and we all love a good story. One of the marketing classes, it was more of a survey, if you will, in the professional world was one of the concepts out of it was best story always wins. And so, you think about Chick-fil-A, their chicken nuggets probably PDQ here in Wake Forest was right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the same product. They were open on Sunday.
Right.
Their stuff wasn't bad.
Mm-mm.
But Chick-fil-A has a great story.
Yeah,
People love their story. They
that's
love what
right.
they're about. And they're shut down on Sunday. It's inconvenient for a lot of people. They could do like, an extra day of business. But people buy into their story. They buy into the quality. They buy into the service. And they have a great product that keeps people coming back. There's no compulsion. It's
Right.
best always wins. And so that's the as a leader setting that vision, telling that story. That's what advertising is. It's not a good advertisement is not a funny ad. It's telling a story that sticks with people, that makes them go, that I want that, or hearing a testimonial, whatever it is. You want people that hear that story, believe that story, and keep coming back year after year for business.
So you mean people don't just buy because they've looked at all the specs of the product and they realize like that's perfect for me. Make this logical decision.
Yeah, I mean, some people do. Some people don't get me wrong, but if we're honest, and
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I've heard this thrown around in the marketing world is 90% of our decisions are made with emotion.
Yes.
10% is logic, and we attach those
Yes.
reasons to it. Like if you meet people from the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears, they'll tell you all the reasons why their team's the best. it really doesn't matter. You know,
No.
they're just doing it because they emotionally are bought in, and then they'll
Yep.
find all the facts to add on to that to, find that. So best story, you have a
Yeah.
great story, you have heritage, you have people buy into it. That leadership will drive people to do and go further than they've ever thought.
I think that's so true. We want to think that we buy logically, that someone who presents the best logical argument is who we follow, but it's just not so. We make most of our decisions on a subconscious level, which is emotion. We don't, like you said, we don't think in terms of words, we think in terms of pictures and emotions. And so we buy emotionally. We need the logic just to give ourselves permission to say yes. We need
Yeah.
that confirmation in what we are already feeling. And I think a good leader uses persuasion not just to manipulate someone's emotions, but also knows how to give them the facts, the logic they need to feel comfortable, to feel like they're making that right decision.
I, I couldn't agree more. I think it's that you kind of bring up, without saying it, ethics. So
Yes, right.
one of the things, I went to a religious university, and my professor often talked about seeing consumers as image bearers of God. And so
Mm. Hmm.
how do you do that
Wow.
ethically?
Yes. Right.
And, I think about, I'll go, without going into it actually, but like you think about some of these like 24-hour news stations, that
Right.
politics, things like that, they deal in anger. They get people
Yes.
angry,
Yep.
and they're influencing them, they're persuading them,
Yes.
but not ethical of they're not bringing them to
No.
actual logical, good discussions. They're making people angry.
They're
And
pressing
then
on the pain and getting a visceral emotional response that sucks people
yeah.
in, right? Rather than inviting them to something more.
So I think that all goes back to servant leadership of,
Yes.
are you actually thinking about what's best for the people like that you're leading, what they need, um, and persuading for them what's good. And some people will use that power for, evil. Some people will use it for good. Charles Manson, um, that's how he built his cult. He read How to Win
Yeah.
Friends and Influence People, and when he came out of
Wow.
prison, he applied it, and but we can also think of those who persuaded, multiple examples on the positive side.
Wow. Well, I want to tie a bow on this and wrap it up right there.
Yeah.
What a great way to think. I mean, that's the challenge that I think you leave us, Oscar Mayer, with this is, um, do we see our responsibility as a
Mhm.
leader
Mhm.
and our responsibility to be an ethical leader who truly is looking after what's good for the people that we're leading? What do they want? What do they need, rather than what do I want and how can I use them to get that? And so that's what I want to challenge us with. Um, I really like this methodology, the way that Dred says, vision to articulation to persuasion and exhortation. If you think about, let's leave it this way, remind ourselves that F3, the mission of F3, right, is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for what? What is all of that was for? That we would invigorate male community leadership. The goal of F3 is to invigorate you as a leader in your community. And the workout group is just the environment that we use to be able to build men up to do that. And as a leader, whether you see yourself this or not, as a leader in your community, you have a duty, you have a responsibility to be able to cast a vision, articulate it, and persuade people to join you into something greater that continues to make this a better place. And as a servant leader, you know that the best way and most effective way you do that is by serving the people that you're leading.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To just put a cap on it, like F3, I've seen workouts where the leader is thinking about everybody in front of the group and the back of the group. I'm a bigger guy,
Right.
so I'm typically
Right.
at the back of the group. But I always appreciate it when you know that the guy at the front's coming back and catching
Yeah.
you and pulling you up. Whereas I've been with groups where, the people have actually walked off of the workouts because you could tell that the leader was just thinking about themselves. They were doing the workout, either they wanted to
They
show
wanted. Yeah.
or they just felt like they wanted to run that day. And so they were going to make everybody run, for 45 minutes. And everyone's like, you're not thinking about me at all. And so
Yeah.
people push away. So I think that's really, people are drawn to people that are leading And I'll put the finger on, you said wants and needs, more on their needs. If people can tell that you really care
Yeah.
about what they need, not
Need. Yeah.
necessarily just what they want, they will respect you and follow your vision, and buy into it.
Mm. Love it. Well, Pax, now you know why we had Oscar Mayer on this week. Great bunch of wisdom from a true professional in this topic. Oscar Mayer, thanks for coming on. Pax, we'll see you this week at the Q Source table.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.